afternoon, everyone. It's Alyssa Corum here, and I'm joined by Ed Carson for this stock market today. And on today's show, we're going to be getting a sense of what's happening with the current market conditions and stocks that are shaping handles. How's it going, Ed? Give us more information.
All right. Well, Apple has formed a handle, but it's a little bit flawed as it turned out with today's action. Meanwhile, Microsoft and Nvidia are also forming handles, and this is in reaction to the market pullback.
All right, well, first, let's take a look at the major indexes. Here's a chart of the Nasdaq, which closed down 1.6% for the day. We also had the S&P 500 down about that as much as well, and the Dow down 1.4% on the day. And we've been talking a little bit about how the major indexes, most clearly the Nasdaq here that we take a look at every day is working on a handle, but it was a relatively ugly session today. What do you make of the action?
Yeah, it wasn't very good action. I mean, look, in the other days were relatively light. Now we don't know exactly the volume, but the price action was pretty negative. Lows of the day, in the isolation, this is not good, and we'll have to see. Honestly, it's going to take the next few days and weeks to see is this a bullish pause because it's a productive pause that allows handles to form, or are we going to keep heading lower? Are we going to head back to the 50-day line? Is this rally going to face trouble going forward? So we've undercut all of that Monday gain that we had from like a week and a half ago when everything was just going straight up, and all of a sudden, ever since then, we've been pulling back.
Yeah, well, at the very least, we are still, for now, it looks like maybe around the 21-day, but above the 50-day as well. So key moving averages to watch. And a lot of leading stocks are mirroring this action, Ed. You mentioned Apple at the top of the show. Not quite a perfect handle that we're seeing here with the stock falling below that 50-day today. Not quite in the, the midpoint of the base as we like to see for proper handles, but still action.
Yeah, I mean, another thing is like just late in the day, it got low enough. And so the midpoint of the handle from the high and low of the handle has to be above the midpoint of the base. And for most of today, it looked like that was going to work. And then it just fell a little bit enough shortly before the close so it was like 3 cents below what it could be. Now, that means you don't want to see the overhead resistance. You want the handle to form in the upper half or as close to the high, because then then it really does mean when you break through, it really means that everybody's happy. There's still going to be people who are upset and down if it breaks out of this handle. So there's that action. It'll be meaningful. You could still use it as a handle, but just know that it is definitely a flawed entry to some extent.
And we do have earnings at the end of the month, so not a whole lot of time to be building a cushion.
No.
But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. Let's check out the handle that is taking shape for fellow tech leader Microsoft. A pretty severe, relatively severe down day for the stock, down about 2.5%. And we still need technically one more day for a proper handle to form here. And yet again, earnings here with Microsoft even sooner than we'll see for Apple.
Yeah, and that's just something that we're going to be seeing with a lot of these stocks is like they're coming up in 2 days, they're coming up next week or 2.5 weeks from now. So this is something that investors have to keep in mind. Obviously coronavirus stimulus hopes turned to doubts today on the market, but there's the election day, there's coronavirus vaccine hopes, all sorts of things. So, just that, but earnings season, you cannot forget about that. It's just going to be critical. That it would be the buy point after tomorrow, assuming that Microsoft can bounce back. And again, this is why we talk about handles are just a nice precursor. It's a nice sign, but you need to actually break out above that handle. Just, that handle isn't a buy signal because you could keep falling back. I mean, we haven't stopped the recent pullback. You want to see this as getting through there. That would be short-term resistance, getting through there, signaling that, hey, it really has power. If it does that, that probably means that the Nasdaq and other leading stocks are powering through. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But, this could be something positive. But right now, with all these kind of handles or proto handles, we need to watch.
And, maybe at the very least, earnings can provide the catalyst that we need to see these breakouts. If maybe they hang out around these handle areas for a couple more sessions leading up to those reports. But last but not least, we want to check in on Nvidia, which we know has been a very strong stock this year. Ed, take it away.
Not a whole lot to add beyond from the other ones. So the one thing I would say here is that Nvidia had pulled back for 3 straight days, but the losses were so small that it really wasn't a shakeout. I mean, the whole point, and one of the points of a handle is that you want to shake out weak holders. And so everybody's excited and a long-term holder going into it. And so today's action, again, you need to see the thing come up, and it has one more day for a handle. If it can break out from here, presumably some people will have been shaken out by the action today, falling back to its 21-day line, the lowest level in a couple of weeks. At least you can see the pullback now. Before, you couldn't really see it.
Yeah, that's right. And a little bit more time before earnings with this one. So good to note as well. And, I like that this base has taken shape completely above that 50-day moving average, which isn't the case for other stocks. And I think is a further sign of strength here. We know that Nvidia is definitely a leader in its group, and we are going to keep a close eye on this one. Pull back, which is somewhat rare for a stock like Nvidia.
It really has. It's been
all right,
one of the
everyone.
big winners.
Thanks so much for. Yeah, that's right. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And the conversation continues tomorrow morning on IBD Live. So make sure to check that out. Investors.com/IBD Live. We'll be back tomorrow.